Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Randy coming at you from the frozen tundra of San Marcos, Texas. You can see out behind me, everything's frozen. We're under like 6 inches of snow. Somebody has their dog outside next door, not sure about that. But anyway, I'm here today to bring your weekly cybersecurity tip. And I thought, what a better thing to talk about than being prepared. So basically, Texas right now, every single county in Texas has been under an extreme winter storm warning. It's been insane. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. And we thought we were prepared. Texas gets 20 to 30%. I'm not sure the exact number, but we get a large proportion of our power from windmills. Well, the weather's been so cold this week, it actually froze the windmills. And so we are having a power shortage here. It's actually been crazy. We're going through blackouts. They're called rolling blackouts, where they turn off the power for a while. It may go off during my live stream. Hopefully it won't. But anyway, so I wanted to talk today about being prepared because, like I said, Texas thought we were prepared. And then the worst came, which is 8-degree weather in places around the state that have had lower temperatures than have ever been recorded in written history. And this really took us by surprise, if you will. It really couldn't have been forecasted until just a couple of days before. And we're all trying to stay safe. We're all trying to stay warm. We're trying to work with everything. But my question is, are you prepared for a disaster? If the disaster hits you in your business, in your personal life, it was kind of a blessing in disguise that, we're working through this pandemic because we happen to have a little, extra food and things like that. But this has really taken all of us by surprise. And I've got to ask the question, if a disaster was to hit your business, would you be ready for it? And are you ready for it? And I want to talk about a few scenarios and then maybe some things that you can do. But the first thing that really comes to mind is when people think about disaster, they think about backups. And so I got to ask you, is the data at your company, is it backed up? So a lot of times people will say, yeah, it's backed up. We've got someone who's in charge of backing it up. They take a hard drive home every weekend, this or that. Those things usually fall by the wayside. I have to tell you, I have yet to still see a company that on their own is in charge of backup. Like, maybe they're putting like an administrator or somebody in charge of backup. I've yet to see a company that kind of on their own, like, keeps that up, especially the whole hard drive switching off thing. The people forget, maybe they haven't done it in 6 weeks or something like that. We had a talk with a person at one of our companies about backing up their QuickBooks, and she promised that she would do it. And then we checked back in a few months later and she did it like twice and never did it after that. So we took that over basically. But that's a big question people have with their businesses. If you're going to be prepared for disaster, do you have good backups in place? Are they recent, like from today or from last night? But also you have to ask yourself, are those backups accessible? And if they're accessible, how soon can you be back up if everything was lost? So a lot of businesses are backing up their data, but what you really need to do is you need to be backing up your entire systems so you can be back online in minutes instead of hours or even days, sometimes even weeks. I've heard statistics that people don't come back from a ransomware on average for about 3 weeks, which is insane. So your systems, your servers, your workstations, they need to be backed up in such a way that they can be back online. Maybe the device itself is out and maybe it's a virtual device, but that you can get back to work within minutes instead of with hours. And then I also would tell you that your backups, the data needs to be forever. It needs to be kept forever or for years, because when a cyber criminal comes into your network, they don't just come in right away and then flip a bunch of switches and then boom, you're attacked and you have no way out. That's not how it works. They're going to come in and they're going to lay low and they're going to start building a profile and they're going to start looking at your backups. They might delete your backups without you knowing it. It's not just enough to have backups that are there for like a month or something like that. They should be backups that can't be deleted, or at worst, they can't be deleted for years. That way, if there is a criminal in your system, your data is better protected that way. So a couple of other things I want to talk about other than backup. Also want to talk about your email. So if you were locked out of your email because of a disaster and couldn't get into your email, how would you get in? And what would you do? Do you have a backup way to get in? Do you have maybe email on your phone and on your computer? You know, what if your provider locked you out because a cyber criminal took over and then changed the password? Like, what would you do in that situation? That's something that you have to be ready for and be prepared for. Also, what about your passwords? Are your passwords, hopefully, you're not using the same password on everything. You shouldn't do that. You should, there's only a small couple of cases where where it's okay to reuse a password. Typically you want to use good complex passwords that are different in every place. But let's say you're backing them all up in your Google browser, which I wouldn't recommend. It's better than nothing, but I wouldn't recommend that. But what if you're backing them up there and lost access to that? What would you do? How would you get back into your accounts if you lost all your passwords, or if a cyber criminal got in and deleted them all? Like, what would you do? How would you be able to get them back? Would you be able to get back in? I would suggest using, like we recommend, a password software that if the passwords are deleted, they're stuck there for like 6 months. So that way it's not going to be something they can't just go in, delete all your passwords, clear them out, and then boom, you don't have a way to get back in. They're protected for a length of time. And then that way, if they do delete them, you can see where they are. A couple other things, like these are a little smaller things maybe, but they're going to be really crucial to you being able to continue to function in a disaster. Another thing would be a multi-factor authenticator app. So do you have one? Would be my first question. And if you don't have one, you really need to get one. Multi-factor authentication is where it asks for a code after you enter in a password, or maybe it asks for the code, then asks for the password, but it adds in an extra layer of security and makes it less likely that, like, even if your passwords fell into the wrong hands, they wouldn't be able to get into your account, because they would also need that multi-factor authenticator, or sometimes it's called a second level authenticator. And so my question would be, if you have one of those and you lost that, what would you do? How would you get back into all of your accounts? Literally just today, I was trying to get into an old account that we don't use anymore. So this wasn't life or death, but I didn't have multi-factor authentication for it. I reached out to the company where it is, and basically they said, we can't do that. We can't get you back in, because would be insecure if they could just get you back in. So my question would be, what would happen if you lost your multi-factor authentication app? And that's also kind of tied in to my final thing that I want you to think about, so you know you're prepared in case there's a cyber crime disaster, would be, what would happen if you lost your phone? You know, that might sound kind of silly, but a lot of software that we use to turn on multi-factor authentication, it just says, hey, I'm going to send you a text. It's not the most absolute secure thing in the world, but it's more secure than not doing that at all. So what would you do if you lost your phone? How would you be able to get into your accounts? What would you do? And this is something I think you really need to think about. I try to keep on hand an extra SIM, And then I know that at my mobile phone company, that I have passwords and or PIN codes to get into that. And so my plan is, if I lost my phone, would be to take that extra SIM and then call them up, get the SIM reactivated, put it in another phone, because I always have extra phones around here. And then boom, I can get back into my phone. I can get back into the accounts that use my phone for second level authentication. So these are a ton of things that are a few things that I just wanted you to think about and start having in your mindset. Are you prepared if there is a true disaster, a cyber crime disaster? Are you really prepared? So that's about it for today. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I know that at least in Texas, a lot of people aren't going to be able to tune in weren't able to because of the power outage, and you'll be looking at this later. So feel free to leave comments or questions and I'll try to answer them. But once again, thanks for tuning in. And if you know anybody that needs help with any of this stuff, send them my way. They can send me a DM or reach out in a comment, and me or Tech Rescue will help as much as we can. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Y'all have a great rest of your day.